Hey there, this is Ty Hodson with Armchair Migraine Journey. I'm back here at Sublevel 9 Studios after we opened for the legendary Pink Dots and Orbit service for the first couple shows of Tour Aquarius. My bandmate Chris Macbeth is with the Dots now. He's handling merch for their shows. They just entered Canada today. So until they all return back to California, where AMJ will open for a few more shows, I thought I'd share a little behind-the-scenes insight with you about the making of Infernal Machine, which is the Edward Ka-Spel track that opens the Edward AMJ split-release Transmit Acoustique Abstraction Three. So let's check it out. So Infernal Machine came together over a few months in the spring of 2014. It started out with Edward sending Chris a raw synth track that he offered up for us to do whatever we wanted with. So let's hear a little bit of that. So, as you can hear, it's pretty minimal, juicy sounding. So we set about thinking about what we could do with it. So the first thing I thought about for this piece was the rhythm. Edward's synth part has that just regularity to it. It just screamed drums. So I set about laying some drums first thing. This is the drum track here. I like to do things in one take as much as possible, so I just sat down and put his synth part on and laid down a real simple groove for about 12 minutes or so. And at the end of it, I liked it so much that I did it again. I laid another pass of the same thing. There are naturally little variations that occur from one take to the next. I might do a little hi-hat thing one time and not another time, or I might do a little drum fill or whatever. And so I just layered the two together to create the drum track that you hear in the final piece. So now we've got a good groove going with Edward's synth part, and now it's time to start adding more stuff. So I started out next with 606 drum machine. I had a part lying around where I'd run the 606 through a bunch of other things, modular synth and bits and pieces, heavily processed rhythm track. Which we can hear now. But in order to make that work with Edward's track, I processed it some more to just make it a little more amorphous. So from there, nothing really happened for a few months, and then Chris sent me a couple parts to layer in. First is a drone track that we're hearing in the background now. Then he also sent a textural piece, which I put in toward the end of the piece. There's some serious low end happening in this. And then lastly, for our phase of adding stuff, I added in some vocoder. That's not vocoder. So you probably hear that at a couple points in the piece. So at this point we have a pretty solid track going. It sounds really good, these various elements working together, but it just seemed to lack some sparkle. And since this is Edward's track, it seemed appropriate to have Edward's voice. So I suggested to Chris that we get Edward to sing on it. Lo and behold, a couple days later, on request, Edward sends a vocal track that's just perfect.
Cables, tied to cables, down the street, over gables, under sheets, a solid knot designed to sweep you off your feet.
Here it is all together.
It's the hum that killed the bees in your pristine electric garden. Now weeds are walking hungry.
So you can imagine our excitement when we heard this, because, again, it's Edward's track and it just needed something a little bit more, and he totally delivered on it. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed a little bit about how that track came together and get a little insight into the sometimes long and drawn out process of putting these pieces together. So I guess that's it. Take care. Thanks.
It's friend and foe, it's women, children, mow the meadow, one man, two men, and a dog. It's mow the meadow, one man, two men, and a dog. No indecision, botched decisions, cogs, it's shocker, or a happy Christmas.